I'm not into podcasts.
I swear you'll never see anything like this ever again. What a hit!
Back of the net.
Hello, it's Killian and I'm delighted to be joined by Conor Glennon on the Not a Pundit podcast. Conor, how are we going?
I'm not too bad at all. I'm interested to see how this week goes for both Newcastle United and Manchester United. I think both. I have a feeling both Manchester clubs will get a win at the Wednesday time of recording, but we'll see how we go. You emerged from your pit of sadness after Mowbray? I heard yourself and Nathan slightly touch on it, but I think he was afraid to push that stick too much.
Yeah, like I'm sad for Tony. I don't think he did a whole lot wrong, but I'm really happy that for once Sunderland has a proactive board and a proactive model in place. A lot of fans aren't happy. A lot of fans aren't happy with the structure and the fact that so much credence has been given to Christian Speakman. But they're boiled ham Brexiteer kind of fans. Like they are 4-4-2 and where's the little man and the big man up top? So I don't really listen to them. I think it's very interesting to actually have a European model kind of working out because it's worked for Brighton and it's worked for Brentford and it's a much more positive situation than we've been in a long time.
I never thought I'd be looking at a club like Brighton. Don't get me wrong, Brighton are a great club, great history, but I would never have thought I would have been looking at a club going, yeah, I wouldn't mind being them. Like, don't get me wrong, Newcastle are flying it. Who knows if we can maintain that?
But for different reasons.
That's the thing, and they've done it the right way. And I think if you're any team in the top three divisions, you're looking at Brighton going, okay, that looks pretty fun. It used to be West Ham. There's a club every couple of years that happens to, but Brighton have really had a glow up.
It's what I like about them is the fact that it's so sustainable. That ownership could sell and somebody else could come in and just pick up that mantle. That same can't be said for Newcastle. No. Not going to get that kind of ownership. City now might, because they've spent a decade and billions to try and get to there. But it's going to be very interesting to see what move Sunderland goes with. I think it's all going to be a name that we don't know.
Interesting. There's been some cool names been floated around, some really interesting characters.
Yeah, but one guy I definitely hope isn't going to be on that list is Paul Heckingbottom, who is the first manager in the sack race this season. Is it just me? Is it kind of late? Like usually it's a Halloween thing.
Yeah, the first managers to go usually find themselves out of a job, in and around autumn or early winter. There is one kind of, when I went digging in the weeds of what was kind of the outlier in it, I suppose. The main notable one was 99-2000. And it was until March, no gaffer had been sacked. And the first one that year was Danny Wilson at Sheffield Wednesday. I do love them as a club, but I thought it was interesting that it took the whole time till March there. But one that I think is fascinating, just from my own black and white lenses, is actually, I'll put it to you. I've given it away that it's the tune, but who's the fastest ever manager to be sacked in the Premier League, and how long was it?
Oof. Les Reed was the shortest, but I can't remember if that was the end of the season or not.
It was Kenny Dalglish, 2 games. 98-99.
And that was at Newcastle?
It was at Newcastle, yeah. It really came in. It was one of those situations that was an absolute dumpster fire from start to finish. But I think what has intrigued me more is yourselves and ourselves appear on a very unfortunate list. Tottenham are at the top of this list. It's for basically being the team that have parted ways with their manager the most at the earliest. So Tottenham are at the top. Newcastle have 3, Sunderland 2, and Sunderland 3 and Chelsea 2. I can't remember what seasons now. They obviously they're in different seasons.
This is number of times we're the first club to sack a
Yeah.
manager.
So
Okay.
so obviously throughout the season, but the ones that it started to jog my memory of is, and I don't have the stat on this, but I know both of our clubs have had a real a revolving door at times.
Mm.
2009 springs to mind for the tune when unfortunately Alan Shearer brought us down. I think he was our fourth or fifth that year. You guys had a pretty similar circumstance.
Yes. Like, so what would happen with us was up until David Moyes dragged us down, we would have like Gus Poyet or Dick Advocat or Paolo Di Canio, and they'd come in mid-season, do the Great Escape, and then the rot would set in again, and
Yeah.
they'd be gone very early. So like Di Canio was only 12 games. I think Dick Advocat was like 14 games. So yeah, it's like I kind of get them ones. I don't like them. It's not a good list to be on, but I kind of understand it.
Well, one thing that I do find, like, it's one of those lists you can look at two ways. Like, yeah, it's not ideal to be the first team to sack your manager, kind of showcase you're not doing well, but at least it shows that the board are being proactive and trying to solve the situation that they're in. It's because, like,
But
there's
you
nothing
can't be
worse
doing
than
it
holding
after.
on, you know?
But when you're the first ones in a season doing it, especially like say like the Paolo Di Canio, like that was mad early.
Yeah.
Like you're after committing a summer. And like at
Yeah.
that year with Paolo Di Canio, I think we'd signed 14 players for a total fee of like 1 million.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, even amongst Sunderland fans, that summer transfer window is a quiz in itself.
The
Kind of going,
stuff of legend.
who doesn't forget Cabral, the Cape Verdean that we signed from the Swiss League? Like,
I mean, we had our own few ones of them. I think every club has had them. Even United have gone through a stretch of, I think when you look at United and the transfers they've had, Liverpool too. I think it was United had some. For every Wayne Rooney, there was Bebe. There was when you look at Liverpool. I think I can't remember the exact number, but Benitez signed like 100 players in his tenure there. Like mad stuff.
yeah, but like I think Liverpool relatively forgivable apart from the Hodgson Dalglish era, because like at least some of the players towards the end of Benitez, it was like yeah they didn't work out, but maybe they should have. Like do you remember
Yeah.
Aquilani from
Oh
Fiorentina?
yeah,
It's like yeah,
yeah.
good, really good midfielder. Didn't suit the English game and is injury prone. So it's kind of like yeah, right, yeah, I know what you're doing there. It just
Yeah, it
didn't
just didn't
work
work
out.
out.
It's
Yeah.
not like when Liverpool were buying Christian Poulsen, who was like on borderline ready to retire at Juventus, or Paul Konchesky.
Oh my days! I did love him back in his Fulham days. He was fantastic.
Do you remember the young Argentinian winger Bruna that was there? Geraldo Bruna that they signed from Madrid.
Rings a bell.
Do you know why it might ring a bell? Because he spent about 4 years at Derry City.
What?
yeah. yeah. I think there's an episode in that from Madrid to Derry or something like.
Jesus Christ! I mean, his partner, his poor partner, must have been Jesus. That's a polar shift.
Yeah. But like bringing it back to the present day, do you think Heckingbottom deserved it?
I think so. To be honest, I mean, it was they've had a pretty tough start to things. Bottom of the Premier League, 4 points adrift of safety. Like losing 11 of their opening 14 games. Shout out Stephen Kenny, who lost his first 11. But yeah, I think the game is at a point where you just can't be doing that, and it's personally I think give managers time. But I think it's a lot easier to give a manager time when you're guaranteed to stay up. But when you're rock bottom, 4 points off coming into December, you either go down with the ship or make a decision. And the board made the decision. What about you?
I'm not a fan of Heckingbottom in general. Like, so he rejected Sunderland a few years ago when he was at, I think it was Barnsley. He rejected us. I think went up to Hibs,
Right.
and then he got sacked there, and then he went to Leeds, and he got sacked there, and then he became the under 21s manager for Sheffield, and then became like the interim coach, and then was given the job. So like that man has failed upwards. So I think it was kind of like with Nathan Jones with Southampton. Like it was just beyond his ability. Like no harm to the man. He was put in the position, and you're not going to say no. But like,
Again, shout out to Stephen Kenny.
your words, not mine. But yeah, like it's Sheffield seem to have resigned themselves to relegation with appointing Chris Wilder. And we'll get onto him a little bit more later on, but like it doesn't show ambition, and I don't
shows
think that's
someone.
necessarily a bad thing.
It shows someone to guide the ship down with stability, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like it's kind of like what Norwich and Fulham did when they were kind of yo-yoing between the two.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's just better to get up and have a year than come back down than doing what so many teams like what Fulham did one of them years, which was go and spend all of the monies and then go back down anyway. Like when they spend 20 or 30 million on Seri in the midfield?
Not far off it. I don't know the exact
Yeah.
number, but I remember being lunacy numbers for the situation they were in.
And I was kind of like, okay, wow. Like thank God that Tony Khan went and bought his wrestling company, because that seems to have kept his father's purse strings a little bit tighter and a little bit more clever, all to the benefit of the club. So yeah, like I think Heckingbottom's the first and probably the most deserving.
You don't want to see anyone lose their job, but yeah,
No,
I agree.
no, but I think of the Premier League, if somebody has to be the first, and I think he's of them. I think he's most deserving. But what I think it will be interesting to see is who's next, and we're very quickly going to go through the odds here, brought by a blue betting company, Billy Mountain, we'll call him. So the odds-on favorite right now to be sacked is Steve Cooper at 6-4.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Ten Hag 7-4, Company 7-1, Hodgson 7-1, Iriola 14-1, Marco Silva 14-1, Chris Wilder a day in the job is at 16-1 to get the sack. Rob Edwards at Luton 20-1, Pochettino 25-1, Gary O'Neill 33-1, Moyes 33-1, Dyche 40-1, which is a lot higher than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Eddie Howe 50-1, De Zerbi 66-1, and then we're getting into the unrealistics. But 200-1 is no manager to leave.
That'd be unbelievable, but yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think that's worth the sneaky tenner. But yeah, like Steve Cooper, does he deserve it?
I mean, like you said, he's at 6-4. They third consecutive league defeat on the bounce, going 1-0 down at home to Everton. Games like
15th.
that against, 15th, yeah,
the 15th.
Like games like that against Everton, though, you gotta win. They're 6-pointers. I know it's December, but they're 6-pointers. And I think that plays into the point about Dyche. I think there's two things keeping Dyche's odds way higher than we would have imagined. The points deduction is a major part of it. Who's going to want to come in on that? Ownership is precarious at the moment, which also
has that deal gone through?
I don't know if it's. I know it's going through. I'm not exactly sure if it's fully been takeover. I'll put it this way: I haven't seen the pictures with the scarves on the pitch yet. So,
okay.
I think with that one, I mean, the one thing that is being talked about with Cooper is that this comes out of the Telegraph. That their notoriously trigger happy owner is exasperated by the club's failure to appoint, and this I found odd when I read it this morning, a set piece specialist following his 95 million transfer spend over the summer, and I think that's the key point, whether he deserves to be sacked or not. Spending 95 million quid to find the position that they're in, it's hard to walk away from that clean.
Yeah, but like to spend 95 million because they genuinely needed to.
Well, I agree completely.
Like they got the unlikely promotion, and I think more to the point, who are they going to get to replace him?
Well, this is the thing.
I think it's one of them jobs that's so precariously balanced that, like, because he had so much credit in the bank, that's the only thing that was keeping him safe. Anybody else that comes in could still be sacked before the end of the season because the
Absolutely.
owner, he's the owner at Olympiacos, is it as
I
well?
believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the big Greek 3 or 4 teams,
Yeah.
and like he was notoriously trigger happy there. And like who'd you get in? Because like without that stability and kind of guarantee of a proper squad, they could get dragged into a relegation fight. So it's a high risk, low reward for somebody else to take over the job. So
Well, this
why
is the
not
thing.
leave it with the guy? Like, and if even if it does resign you to relegation, well then I don't think there's anybody better that you're going to get.
I agree, and that's I was listening to Gary Lineker on his podcast over the last couple of weeks, and they were kind of discussing the fact that is the reason it's taken this long for someone to get let go from their job and anyone to be really in fear of losing it because there isn't the caliber of what's needed to replace them out there. You know what I mean? That's not to say that everyone else outside of these guys are bad coaches, but is the standard there, or maybe the standard is there, but the compensation to get them in is too high. Someone like a Will Still.
Well, I think with the likes of a Will Still, and I'm seeing it at Sunderland because Sunderland seems to have a lot of options on the table, and all of the English names that were bookies were just throwing in, like Heckingbottom being linked, none of them fit the model. And I think that's the big thing is that you have these clubs that aren't actually really defined on a model. So say Tottenham bringing in Ange, but they had the issue with Paratici. So you don't really have a director of football. So you need somebody
Yeah.
that can still be the strong man and deal with the director of football if the director of football comes back. But then you have somebody like a De Zerbi that's coming in with a set model. Newcastle now has a set model, but I think the how predates the model. So if they were to get to sack him at any stage in the future, there will be a plan in place. So I think a lot of the teams that have the shortest odds at the minute are the ones with the worst structure. So like
That's a
Ten
great
Hag
point.
being
Yeah,
being the second closest. Like eh, I think that what's keeping him in the job is uncertainty, and that's part of the reason why he's so short. But like, if you have a director of football, you're not going to have this same kind of scrambling around from managers. So you're going to play the game a whole lot better, and you're going to, if you need to wait, you'll wait. And that's why with Sunderland, I find it very interesting the timing because I don't think you're going to make that move when you do without a plan in place. So I think that could be one of the big things.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, and it's not something I've actually really thought about. But when you connect the dots like that, especially when you bring in the Ten Hag piece, you look at Forest, you look at, I like what Vinny Company's trying to do at Burnley, but there's not exactly a system there. It's kind of his current system is my way or the highway, which isn't exactly working. I want him to succeed. Will he succeed? I don't know. Roy Hodgson, could you say there's a framework there? Again,
Sort of, but it's kind of an old school framework. Like
yeah.
they were early in the director of football, but it's an English way of doing it. Bournemouth, they're at the beginning of setting in the model, and these models do tend to have a little bit of a turnover when they're trying to find their feet or whatever. Sheffield have an ownership that they don't really know what they're doing, like considering that they sacked Wilder and there was a big falling out, and then a month later
Now
they
they're
were having
best mates
dinner.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, so like you can't tell me that there's a kind of a plan there. Whereas like even if we go down to Brentford are doing well, but 100 to 1 on Thomas Frank to leave.
I think they'd be
Um,
insane because they I do think are building a framework, and I think it's getting harder and harder to build a framework in football. I think, especially, say for example, we've talked about before. Eddie Howe has come in and been a massive success at the Toon. Regardless of where we finished this season, we've gone to heights we didn't think what was possible. But he came in and compared to, I think we talked about this before with Nathan or Rob, that he was able to create this framework without being under a microscope, without having massive press attention, and able to work out the kinks. And by the time we got all the eyeballs, it was in a solid place. And that's where I feel bad for the likes of Ten Hag, possibly with Thomas Frank, because they've had so much attention with Ivan Toney, and that whole piece of things. So it's getting harder and harder for clubs to have the time, to I suppose, solidify what their format is going to be because of a couple of factors. First of all, it's all great having a framework. If you don't win games, you're going to get pushed out. Then your framework's gone with that. On to the next one. Second one is having the eyes on you from the press. You know, you have a couple of good runs in the cup. Now everyone's talking about you, and a couple of mess ups, and you're back to square one. And then I think also with the just cyclical nature of management, even like look at the longest managers in the Premier League. It's going down and down and down in terms of how long managers are there. So it's kind of like, is
Isn't
it?
Klopp and Guardiola the two longest
Yeah,
now?
it's not, and I think I can't remember. There's a third one there that's not too far off them, but like when you look at numbers like that, when you compare it to the Arsene Wenger and Fergie years, like it's rookie numbers, you know, and
I think it's actually Thomas Frank because he was
that's who, yeah,
2018.
that's who I'm
Yeah.
thinking of, yeah. So like, I think Thomas Frank, they'd be insane to let go, and if they let go, I'd see him
Oh,
popping
like
up in multiple places.
he's 100 to 1 to leave,
Yeah,
but it's just like he was an assistant manager there as well. So like they have these kind of plans in place, and it's just these teams that don't have this more modern European structure seem to be the ones that kind of scramble more. Chelsea, like Pochettino's 25 to 1, and I don't think they can. I don't think they can get a better manager. Full stop. I don't think they
100%.
can.
I adore the man, but I don't think he even has a framework in his head yet. I think he's like, let's get through this first year, let's try things, and then I think next year they'll have a plan.
You'd hope, but
Yeah,
like I just find it kind of interesting just that more traditional teams, and like I think that's going to be the big thing with Ten Hag now is I'd be very, very interested to see what Jim Ratcliffe comes in with. Like he is a man that is used to a structure. It's Nice he owns, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
So they have a director of football, and
And teams outside of football too, as Nate brought us through before, and
Hmm.
I think someone like him. I don't know about you. If I'm Ten Hag, even if I'm doing semi well, new owners, albeit he's not majority owner, but they like having their own people. Uh,
yeah, but he'll have control, so he'll of footballing side of
yeah,
things.
it's
So like
football
he'll get
operations.
to.
Like, yeah, he makes that decision, but I think if I'm Ten Hag, you do what? Like, I personally would be nervous if I'm Ten Hag. Would you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I think whoever Ratcliffe puts in the director of football role or the that kind of a role anyway,
Yeah,
whoever's going to be, there might be a head of football operations and then a director of football. They might do it something like that. But whoever is the kind of the closest to Jim, if I was Ten Hag, I'd be like sending cigars to. I'd be buying them bottles of wine
yeah, straight
because
from
like
Cuba. Yeah.
oh, I'd be saying let's go to the cinema because me and you are going to be best buddies because like that. But that is the relationship you need to have with your director of football
But he
because
had
director of
that at
football.
Ajax, and that's why he was successful. You know, what I mean, like he had big
Yeah, but
decision
who did he have
makers.
it to? Who did he have it with?
Yeah,
And why was that person sacked?
yeah,
um, but it'll be yeah. So like personalities aren't always going to mix, as we saw with the Irish women's team with Vera Pauw. The Dutch way isn't always the nicest way.
yeah.
Um, so it may not mesh, and I think that's where the issue for Ten Hag will be because again, like I said earlier, with some of the other teams like Bournemouth, it's going to be the start of putting in a model, and these models can take a little bit of time.
I just
Like
don't know if he's the United model. I don't think. I think on his best day, even winning games, that's not a United play football. You know.
yeah, like I think one of the now this is on absolutely no grounds of authority or no knowledge of the man at all, but you would imagine somebody like Ratcliffe's going to come in and want entertaining football. I know everybody says that, but I think there might be a little bit more of an onus on that and a little bit more of an acceptance for kind of a bad year or two to get good football. Seeing what the likes of Guardiola has done at City, like don't forget, it's like it's very easy to not think about Guardiola's first 2 years, where people were kind of going, "Oh, has he met his match? The Premier League is
Yeah.
it's not Farmers
Can
League
he
like
do
the
it without
money's gonna get."
Messi and all of that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like there was all these question marks. So like, I think Ratcliffe might come in and go right. this is the theatre of dreams, and it should be again. So let's play good football. Let's be entertaining. We're not in a position, regardless, to challenge for the title. So let's just take a year or two where we drop a position or two, like what might already happen anyway, and instill entertaining football, and then reap the benefits of it down the line. Because from everything that Nathan's kind of told us and from the press, it seems that it's a long-term vision that he has for the club. It's not
I think that's a cop out, though. You know, I think he's definitely building towards something, but that's, you know, that's like, say, in anyone's personal life, if you're like, oh, I'm gonna lose X amount of weight. Oh, it's a long-term thing. That's why I'm not losing the weight. It's like, no, you either, you know, there's other factors in it, and I think he's kind of going, look at this shiny thing I'm going to do down the road, but don't focus on what I'm doing right now.
I think you're being little bit harsh there, because like if he comes in, and I think he will give Ten Hag to the end of the season. I don't think the odds are going to be that short when Ratcliffe actually comes in. I think it's kind of being a little bit dramatic. I think they'll give him the window, but I don't, if it's not meshing, they won't give him the summer. There's no point.
Oh, I don't think they sack him in season, or I think if they do, it's like April.
Yeah, it'll be end of it. But like if they, like, for what you're saying, it kind of being a cop out, if they come in and they're like, this is the style of football we're going to play, but they start selling a load of people and buying in a load of people, well, then that to me is progress. Because I've seen at Sunderland where you kind of go, listen, this may not work. So you just, like Sunderland last year, we first season back in the Championship, we got to the playoffs, incredible. But there was, like I was saying, I'd be delighted if we got mid-table, which was great. But everyone was, like a lot of the fans that I would give a little bit of credit to, was kind of going, okay, once we survive, that's like, we're bringing in all these young players. They might take a little bit of time to hit the road, and you just take that on the chin if you need to, and if not, then you reap the benefits of it. And I think that could be something that happens with United. I just don't think the Ten Hag will be there for it. So whilst he is set 7-4, I don't think he's going to be the next in the sack race.
Yeah, I do think that's just, I think that's more a hot press topic and trying to get punters cash in the door more than anything. I think he's defo in a dodgy position, but I don't think he's really as tight to the odds as he probably is in real life, you know?
Yeah, whereas I don't think the same can really be said for Vincent Kompany on 7-1. Like, I think
that's a solid bet, that, you know?
Yeah, like I think it's one of these kind of ones that I'd love it to work out for him.
Yeah,
I think
everyone would.
I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's a good manager.
Yeah, and there's definitely known that line, and you know, stats wise, ironically, I suppose their 5-0 win is what got Heckingbottom the sack. But and looking at their kind of season today, 15 games, 2 wins, 1 draw, it's not looking good for them. But it's really a case of, for Burnley, have they bought in on them? Did they ever think they'd stay up this year? And do they go, okay, we'll go to the Championship, stay with them, and that's their long-term play?
Yeah, well, and same as kind of what we were saying about Nottingham Forest, I would stick with him, even if he drags it out. Like, who are you going to get in instead?
Yeah.
And it's not about lack of talent on the market. It's who is going to fit your model and the style of football. Because one thing you can't say about Burnley is they're not entertaining. Like, they are an entertaining team. You can't deny it. They play decent ball. It's just the teams that they're playing are
much better.
Like, don't forget that, like, one of their key signings and one of the best players last year was Josh Cullen, who, whilst he is a good player for Ireland,
he's bang average in the middle of the Premier League.
If even. Like, he's a very good Championship player. He kind of reminds you of Dwight Gale, going back to your Newcastle is. Kills it in the Championship every time. Just not there.
Just can't get it. League. Yeah.
He could, and he might. He's only 26, and in the position he plays, he could hit 28 and just hit a new level, change the type of midfielder that he is. We've seen it with Pirlo and countless other guys. So I'm not writing him off, but like, it was kind of like Burnley a couple of years ago when they lost Defour.
Oh
or
yeah,
Wolves when they lost João Moutinho. You kind of lose, like they don't seem to have quite have that brain of
they're
a little
linchpin.
bit.
The
Yeah,
quarterback. Yeah,
yeah, like not necessarily in a passing kind of way, but like with Dufour is a little bit more kind of like aggressive, kind of like going, I'm going to stop the play here and put it back to the people that can play the ball, but I'm going to take the bull by the horns. And then with Giammattino is a lot more of the ticking clock in the middle. So like, I think it'd be harsh for company to get the sack on the back of that, and I haven't heard anything really press wise about that. Like I
I
can
think
see
the
why
owners.
he's short on odds.
Yeah, I think the owners seem to like him. I think it's literally just a stats thing of wins and losses, and media needing something to talk about. If I'm honest, I really don't see anyone, and this may be commentators curse and bite me in the arse, but I don't see anyone going this side of the year.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm not sure about that now. I reckon um Irola or Irola or
yeah,
the Bournemouth manager. I
yeah.
think he might be a little bit more precarious just because
Him or Cooper, they're thereabouts. I think.
yeah, like Bournemouth are where they're currently 15th. So as we're recording, there is games going on. So Nottingham Forest, when we were talking about them, were
We're
15th now.
15th. Yeah,
Yeah, now Bournemouth are 15th. But they're doing good, but we've seen them not have any nothing sacred. Like if they don't feel progress is being made. Now, I think that in comparison to O'Neill, Iriola is the guy that they wanted, so maybe they'll give him more time. But I don't see him having that much of of a uh, a stranglehold on the team, I guess.
when
Um,
you look at that league table though, like we're saying about Burnley, 7 points. To stay up, they need 9 points as of now. It's not like they're so far behind; it's impossible. They just need momentum. You know.
yeah, like if you're looking at the table, of the table and the squad and who the manager is, the one manager I'd actually be kind of looking to get rid of is, being very, very honest, is Moyes.
That's yeah.
And I think because there has been chats about that, I think if West Ham had a sniff of a decent manager coming in, and it like that could be somebody like my Lord and Savior Graham Potter, um, that like they're stagnating. Like that's a team I could understand why they get rid. I wouldn't understand why Luton would get rid of Rob Edwards.
Oh, that would make that like look, Jesus, they didn't expect to go up. No one expects them to stay up. That
Yeah,
like just enjoy the season. How you doing? Keep it moving.
yeah. Dyche at Everton, like that's a
Yeah,
very good manager for the
yeah.
position you're in. So keep him there. Company, Burnley, building something. Um, Nottingham Forest, Cooper. I like that. Iriola, Bournemouth, if that's who you're going with. The only team really I can see that needs to change their manager, and it won't be because of the team's choice. It'll be Palace with Hodgson, and I know
Yeah.
he's what 7-1 as well, and it's nothing to do with.
I was
Well,
not a
it
bad
shouldn't be
manager.
anything.
Like
He's doing like where are they? 14th.
yeah.
Very credible. That is exactly where Palace should be outside of Football Manager. But they'll lose him out because of his age.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like I can't see him staying on. I'm surprised he stayed on this year,
Well, yeah, that's the thing. No one expected him to be here now.
and that's where he could technically be next in the sack race. Is that if they got the right manager deal, that they like Hodgson could go. Listen, lads, you can sign him now, and if you're happy for him to come in now, I'll go.
Well, I
I'll
mean,
retire.
and I think he's a bit of a gent like that. Like, I mean, Jesus, he was retired anyway.
Mm.
So that actually is an interesting question now. If you're Will Still and you're being talked about or Lee Carsley and you're getting talked about for the Sunderland job, I'd have
Mm.
one eye on Palace.
They don't feel like Palace. Like I think Palace kind of their style of football is a lot more pragmatic. Like they tried it with De Boer and it was atrocious. One of the shortest reigns,
Yeah.
or at least amount of matches anyway, in Premier League history. I think with the players that they have now, they tried it with Vieira, and I don't think that was bad. I actually thought Vieira was quite harshly sacked. I would have kept him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But like, who else do you get?
See, this is the thing. Like, if you're like it sounds like we know no other managers other than Will Still and Lee Carsley, but like they are the kind of hottest managers available at the moment. Will Still, is he even available? He seems pretty bloody happy where he is. I don't know. Like, I know for the Sunderland job, you were talking in the last podcast about, potential people coming in. A lot of French kind of connections within that one, but when you look at, like, not to bring it to Brexit ball or whatever, but there's very few, UK, Ireland, Wales, Scotland managers out there, and Palace are a bit of a Brexit ball team where they like having, more UK focused managers.
Well, like, even using your Will Still example, like, he was talking a year ago when he was being memeified on Twitter for 25,000 fine per match and made it on Football Manager, blah blah blah. That he was saying, like, look at Vincent Kompany going from Anderlecht, which is a European level team, to the Championship. That the Championship is one of the most attractive leagues in the world right now,
and hardest.
And yeah, so like, if you are looking at the Championship being like that, and that's the level of managers that they're attracting, so you're not just competing at the Premier League level, you're competing, like, the lower Premier League level are now competing with half of the Championship.
Yeah.
So I think it's less so about, like, just some of the available managers out there, and this list may actually surprise you. So you have, like, Lampard, which I think he would be. I think I could see him at Palace.
I mean,
Be
I think
a bad hire, but I could see him there.
I think Nathan would lose his mind if he saw Lampard back in a Premier League dugout again. But yeah, like, I could see that too. But I honestly think, for Lampard's sake, he needs to go somewhere to build a team. Like,
but like, some of these managers are Potter, Solskjaer, Joachim Low, Hansi Flick, Luis Fernandez, Antonio Conte, Rudy Garcia. Dean Smith is a credible manager. Nathan Jones, Big Sam is always there. Javi Garcia, decent manager. Ralph Hasenhüttl, who should be in consideration for Ireland. Jesse March, I think, got very badly done by the press.
Like him. I never got him.
I just love the Ranić model. So if you're going to commit, he's a good manager in that. If you're not going to, walk away from him. Don't try and make him fit into what you think he could do.
That's a ballsy move, though. If you're like, you're one of the directors of a football club, you float that dude, having that argument of, we got to play his way, that either ends up in glory or both he's getting sacked.
No, but this is the thing. The director of football is supposed to set the style of play. They're supposed to say, this is the kind of football we're going to play going forward.
And this is who I want.
Yeah. And if Hasenhüttl doesn't work, well, then here's the next guy on the list. Yeah. And then here's the next guy.
And we don't deviate from the plan, we deviate from the guy. Yeah.
Exactly. So that, like, this is why I'm not afraid with Sunderland anymore. It's because I know the style of football that we're playing now. I know the model of players that we're getting. We just find the next person to click in. Like, Mowbray was a last ditch hire. So I'm seeing the benefit of it. And I think other people will as well. Like, and Andreas Villas-Boas is available. Lucien Favre is available.
I like Boas, and he's a controversial one, and a lot of people don't. And I get some of the rationale for it. But when you're rattling through these names, like, we were only talking about Joachim Low the other day, and he's a lot younger than you'd think. He's won a bloody World Cup too. Like, I mean, he's not a schlep, like,
Jankovic, who was at Watford, Ruud van Nistelrooy, who's actually on the list apparently for Sunderland. Laurent Blanc, Fabio Grosso got sacked at Lyon. Who else do we have?
Van Nistelrooy walked away, didn't he? I
think so.
Yeah,
from PSV. Scott Parker is available again. Not that I think he should get a job anywhere near the Premier League. George Sampioli is available.
Didn't Espirito Santo get let go in Saudi as well?
Very possibly.
I think he did.
Sanchez Flores is available again. I didn't know that. Like, these are all names that recently would be. Yeah, no, you're right. Espirito Santo and Ian Cathro, the former assistant manager at Newcastle.
Yeah, I think it was something that he didn't vibe with the players and they wanted him pushed out.
always right. Benzema didn't like him, and then there was the question marks over the Jota signing.
Yeah.
So like, there's plenty of guys out there.
The only thing is, you look at them, it's the ego thing for me. Your Hansi Flicks, your Joachim Lows, they're not going to Palace. You know what I mean? They're not going.
Palace, but Michael Beale.
Yeah.
Like these, but the thing is, like a lot of these you could also see at upper championship clubs.
Yeah.
And I think that says more about the championship clubs than it does the manager or the clubs in the Premier League. Like Shevchenko is a credible manager now, and he's gone from Genoa.
God, I adored him as a player, and his Lotto boots. They were bloody fantastic.
So like, my big thing about a lot of the managers that I've called out there is few of them fit the style of football that you could see a Palace or a Burnley doing. Like, there's ones that can work, but you're making it work, or you're having to adjust things. And if they want to be like how Premier League clubs have been over the past 15 years, well then get a new manager in and try something completely different. But if you want, say Hodgson needed to retire tomorrow, the likes of a Mowbray coming in is a clever one, because it's like, okay, I'm willing to be a transition, play decent football, and kind of work on things in the meantime while you're trying to get your shit in order. Like, there's just a lot of considerations when clubs are trying to change the coaches, and when they do, I think it's becoming such a fucking cliche, is the model, the plan, the framework,
your presentation, the book you bring to the meeting. Yeah, it's all about your PowerPoint more than anything at the moment.
Yeah, and I don't think that's necessarily something that should be kind of lambasted in a negative sense, to kind of going, oh, like, these lads are only coming in on the back of a good interview, Nathan Jones. But I think clubs are getting a little bit. I think clubs have seen Chelsea, clubs have seen United,
City.
Clubs have seen but they've kind of seen these clubs that have had lots, like Sunderland being a perfect example of it, lots turnover in managers and no benefit of it. I think clubs are going back to a slightly older day where, yes, the overall tenure is going to be shorter. If you get beyond 3 years, you're an anomaly.
Oh yeah,
but I think they're kind of getting back to a stage of kind of being a little more like, yeah, we're not going to change this year. We'll give them the chance. And when the right manager comes along, we'll get rid of him. Like, I think Wolves wouldn't really hesitate getting rid of O'Neill if they had the right guy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Like, if they could convince a Diego Simeone, if he was to leave Atletico, then you get rid of. But I think that's the stage that most of the Premier League teams are in, which is why I don't think I could call who's going to be sacked next. Who do you think?
It's tough. Like I said, I don't think anyone before January. I think the December run is always tedious for any team. It's game upon game. December's like playing in the Championship, to be honest, with the volume of games that you've got. So I think that'll really solidify who's, pardon my French, in the shit. But I do think come the new year, if it's going to be anyone, I'm going to go with Cooper. I think that's probably a safe one, and anyone who's listening is going, well, yeah. If we're going a bit outside that, it's so tough. Either Cooper or outside shot, Bournemouth. That's the
Iriolo.
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm just gonna go proper fucking crystal ball. It's gonna blow up my face in a month's time. David Moyes. He's gonna be the next on the chopping block.
It sounds mental you saying it, but it's really not. You know what I mean?
It's one of them ones. I think that's the club, depending on how January goes or doesn't go, they're just kind of one bad spell or one bust up in the dressing room away from getting rid of him. They didn't necessarily want him again. Like, there was all that talk after he'd won the Europa League, kind of going. Yeah. Oh, the Europa Conference, was it?
Yeah, conference final, whatever it was called. Yeah.
The third European trophy. Yeah. After that, they were kind of looking at getting rid of him. So, like, I think, again, if the right manager came up, they might just go, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think their January spending or lack of will be a signifier.
Well, I think that would. I think if they don't spend or don't spend in the way that Moyes wants, that's going to that he'll be gone by the end of year.
Yeah,
But I think
March,
if
April. Yeah,
yeah, that it'll kind of be like, right, yeah, we're happy enough with the position. Now you can go, and then they'll go looking. But if the right person became available in the meantime, I reckon they'd kind of go, do you know what? Yeah, let's get this in early. If we can
and
get
West
half a window.
Ham, that is a fantastic club to take on. That's not like, I know where they are in the league isn't amazing, but
They're ninth.
that would get a
The,
higher caliber manager.
the teams that are ahead of West Ham are Man United, Brighton, Newcastle, Tottenham, Villa being the only outlier because of how well Emery has them. City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Name one club there that they should be ahead of.
Yeah,
And
fair.
you can't.
Yeah,
You genuinely can't.
maybe Brighton or Villa, but apart from that, yeah,
They're all on the same par.
yeah,
Like flip a coin and that'll decide the order
yeah.
of them.
Top six is the top six. It's kind of just
Yeah, like I think West Ham are as that, like there is no. It's the top 10 of the Premier League is not like what it used to be. There isn't this top 4 plus everybody else.
Yeah,
Top 10 in the Premier League is all interchangeable. Like if West Ham were to finish 4th next year, I wouldn't be surprised. If Brighton were to finish 3rd, Newcastle to finish 2nd, I think the only thing that's going to change is the only thing that's kind of guaranteed is City is going to be top one. Or
I mean, of the top six, it's Arsenal, Liverpool, City are always going to be in it. In some guys, outside that, it's all to play for.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the seasons Liverpool slips to 4th in the next 3 or 4 years. Just off of the strength of a team rising rather than their own weakness.
I'm fascinated to see how Liverpool do when the day comes that Klopp goes. I want to see what he's left behind.
I'd be mad interested to see where he goes.
I think he'll take a break. I think he'll do a Guardiola and take like 2-3 years off. And
I don't think he takes another job.
Ever. I think he got maybe national.
I don't know if he'd work as an international manager. He seems to be quite
training ground guy.
Yeah. Like I know I've picked Graham Potter to be Ireland manager, but like
and every manager everywhere.
Yeah. But like I think Potter would, despite being a very much kind of training ground manager, would be better at the training ground, better as an international manager because he's so analytically driven. But I think what we've seen with Klopp is that you have a reliance on your backroom staff, and I think that's the issue potentially with Klopp is that he might not get the staff
associated with it.
Yeah, to go to the German job because they're going to spend half the time just.
I could also
games.
see him. He loves ball so much that I could see him going to like a passion project, 2nd division Germany. He's kind of just
go back to Mainz, try and rebuild them or something.
Yeah,
this is probably just pure football manager talking, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him be a director of football at a German club.
I think he's too erratic, but I could see it in a way. I could see him in an Ollie Kahn way.
Yeah, that kind of like
CEO or something. Yeah,
kind of a head figure. Like he'll be the kind of press facing. He'll keep your manager in line rather than being the one that's gonna.
Then he loves football so much that I don't know if he could try, like when you're in those kind of call them C-suite roles of football, you need a certain level of give and take. And I don't think he is that guy. That's my only concern with it. I think if he's like...
I just only can.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, fair enough. And he's not... I suppose he's not in the job either now.
Yeah. But like if you look at Klopp and say... like I know he was at Mainz, that... or even say Dortmund, somewhere that he's been before, and you're buying that club, and a 68-year-old or a 65-year-old Klopp is around and not doing anything.
Oh, you bring him in.
You get him in because you're going to get people inside, and you just deal with the erraticness. But I think he's erratic in a he's a head the ball kind of way rather than an actual Like, and I think even if he was a little bit of a madman, he's worth it.
You put him in as like technical director, ambassador, somewhat Bobby Charlton-ish, but more involved.
Yeah, like I think I could see him doing something like that. I don't see him going to a big club,
No,
if you know what I mean. I don't.
I don't.
He's never really gone for the big clubs.
No, like obviously Liverpool's one of the biggest clubs in the world, but different, you know.
Yeah, but they weren't when he took over.
Yeah.
The man does love a project, and unless fucking maybe going back to Dortmund, I could maybe see that.
I could see it if under the right parameters.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't obviously never met the bloke, but he just seems to me that he's a guy that needs a challenge at all times. But can he get that off the field? I don't know. You know.
And with Liverpool, I think that it's very telling that they've gone through 3 directors of football now, and like one of the things, and not to sound very British about things, but one of the reasons why the monarchy is still there in the UK is it's meant to be a long-term hand guiding the ever-changing prime ministers, and we saw that with the Queen and the longevity of it, and having somebody around that'll kind of go, that's meant to be there as an advisory, yeah, and this is now as if the prime minister is outlasting monarchs, with the way Liverpool is, so you kind of have like Klopp fulfilling the role of your director of football, and your director of football being just there. And I don't know how much it is Liverpool's fault, because it was Michael Edwards that left, and then Julian Ward left after a year, that being alarm bells. But I don't know if that was Ward following.
I think there's also the FSG side of things going. Is the club for sale? Is it not for sale? If it is sold, is my job gone? You know, I think there's a bit of that too.
Yeah, so that'll be definitely one to watch into the future. Of kind of the Big Ten, I think once they lose their manager, I think they're the ones that actually need to worry.
They could, like I mean, they're not gonna. I don't think they'll go full Chelsea, and into that situation.
No.
I think they'll definitely be a loss of direction initially, unless they really get the right guy at the right time. I'd imagine outside Champions League for the year after he goes.
Look at that. We make predictions about who's going to be sacked next, and then we're going full crystal ball into the future of some of the biggest clubs in the Premier League. Conor, I bloody love it. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed that chat, and thank you to our listeners for sticking with us through that. A second episode in the week.
We love to see it.
Dogs.
We love to see it.
Chat you later.
Bye-bye.
I'm not into podcasts.
Back of the net.